Hello everyone, my name is Salim and welcome to the Markets Breakdown Analysis for Monday, the 24th of November 2023. We'll be breaking down charts on the exact zones where prices will close above potential buys or close below for potential sells as well. So looking at the previous weekly candle, the weekly closed bullish with a rejection to the upside. Now this is something we've mentioned earlier in the week last week. The anticipation was to see the weekly candle forming a rejection simply because we've had a weekly rejection on the left. Now what we can see here is we have 1, 2, 3, 4 weekly candles printing side by side, rejecting the upside. Now the first thing what we're going to do here is we're going to look on the left, for example. Actually, before we look on the left, we put a line to where this rejection is, and then we look on the monthly time frame, going back to price action on the monthly. What do we see here? We have a monthly resistance formed back in November 2015. Now, when we drop down to the weekly, again, just to be a little bit more detailed in here, okay? So when you look at the weekly, what do we see? We have this weekly candle closing weak bullish. So this weekly candle managed to break these highs, but then retraced and closed weak bullish back in this range. And then the following weekly candle formed the resistance, and then from that point, price kept moving bearish. Now, the anticipation since the monthly is extremely bullish. The anticipation was to see a price respecting this monthly resistance and a monthly rejection formed back in November 2015. So, looking at the current monthly candle, actually, the monthly is still bullish. The weekly candle, the weekly closed bullish with a rejection to the upside. The daily candle on Friday, and this is also something we've anticipated on Thursday. When I was doing the analysis, I've mentioned how we could potentially see the daily candle for Friday closing bearish, tapping into these two daily rejections. So the reason why I've mentioned these two rejections is if I put a line to where these two daily rejections on the left and you go back on the weekly, that would have allowed the weekly candle to close weak bullish with a rejection to the upside. So now basically when we measure this, the body of the candle would have been roughly around 106 pip range. And then the rejection would have been around 234 pip range. So roughly this would have been a rejection to the upside. But I still think that this could still be a rejection. And then the daily candle closed bearish. The only thing is this daily candle tapped into this daily range and then price retraced and closed just above this daily consolidation area that was formed, I'd say about last week, or 2 weeks ago. So now to break down the chart and looking at the daily has closed bearish, dropping down to the 4-hour time frame. What we can see here is we have the most recent 4-hour support formed around 185.820. The most recent 4-hour resistance formed around 187.140. Drop it down to the hourly, and this is where it gets really messy. So as we can see, we have multiple supports and resistances on the hourly, and this is a really messy range. So to adjust this here can be really difficult because like this is roughly around 110 pip range. Okay, so when you drop down to the 5-minute time frame, again it gets even messier. It extends to 117 pip range, and then we look on the 50-minute time frame as well. As we can see, candles printing side by side, and then we have a decent bullish candle on the 50-minute candle, and then price starts to consolidate again. So I think for today it would be better to look at the 4-hour time frame because we're waiting for a stronger confirmation. So to identify the no trade zone, I'd say potentially what we could look for sells for buys. Maybe ideally it's wait for price to break and close. Let's have a look on hourly actually quickly. So we have, let's just put a line to where this previous 1 hour support, 186.720. Looking on the 5-minute time frame, looking on the 4-hour. So this is something actually can make sense. So potentially what we could do is wait for price to break and close above 186.720, above this previous 1 hour support for potential buys. And then for potential sells, instead of focusing on the hourly time frame where it looks really messy, ideally is to wait for price to break and close below this 4-hour support, below 185.800. And this is going to be the no trade zone. And now to look for potential buys and going back to the daily. So since the weekly is closing bullish now, we don't know whether price is going to retest this high and fill this wick and continue bullish, or is this going to be a rejection? So it's all down to how price would react to this daily resistance around 188.040. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to put a line to where this daily resistance formed around 188.030. Drop it down to the 4 hour time frame, and the first thing we can see, we have this 4 hour resistance around 187.150. Zooming in and drop it down to the hourly. This is an hourly range. Looking on the 5-minute time frame, this is a small range, obviously. So I'd say the first target for buys could potentially be 187.150, targeting this 4 hour resistance. The second target for buys, let's have a look again. So we have a daily resistance formed around 187.990. Drop it down to the 4 hour time frame, and what we can see here, we have another 4 hour resistance formed around 187.600. Drop it down to the hourly. This is an hourly range. More likely will be the same on the 30-minute and the 50-minute time frame. So I'd say the second target for buyers could potentially be 187.600, targeting this 4 hour resistance. And now to look for potential sells, and going back to the daily. Actually, let's have a look on weekly. So the first thing we can see on a weekly is we have this previous weekly resistance on the left formed around 185.080. Drop it down to the daily. This is a daily range, so this is a really messy price action on a daily time frame. Actually, we've had a full weekly candle was just based on basically a 1 weekly candle. When it dropped down to the daily, that was daily candles printing side by side. I remember actually this was the Monday daily candle breaking high, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was literally just consolidating. So the first thing we can see, we have this previous daily resistance on the left around 185.310. Drop it down to the 4 hour time frame. We have this 4 hour low that was formed on Friday last week. Drop it down to the hourly. Now this is a bottom range of an hourly support. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have the first target for sells at 185.310, targeting this previous daily resistance, and this also could be a potential wick fill from the Friday. The second target for sells, now what we can see here on the daily, we have this daily support around 184.820. Dropping down to, let's have a look, that is roughly, yes, dropping down to the 4 hour time frame. We have a 4 hour support around 184.720. Looking at the hourly time frame on the left, what do we see? This is also an hourly range, as we can see. I'm probably going to stick to the high time frame again. So I'd say the second target for sells could potentially be 184.850, targeting this daily support formed previously.
Dominion Markets, your trading sanctuary.